The Miami Dolphins got a much-needed win on Monday Night Football in Los Angeles, and now they get to host the Las Vegas Raiders here in Week 11. My name is Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Week 11 matchup between the Raiders and Miami Dolphins. But before we get into that, we do have a goal of getting to 100 new subscribers for these Week 11 prediction videos we have going out. So if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think will win this game and why. And so, Ryan, Tua got his first win in a long time, since week one of the season here. So it's good to come back. I thought the offense played okay. The Rams defense, it was a very defensive game, actually, especially when you look at all the offensive skill position players on this Monday Night Football game between the Dolphins and Rams.
Yeah.
But I thought the Dolphins did good enough, moving the ball down the field, were effective enough. Still some problems in the offensive line, which we'll get to here in a second. But defensively, though, they absolutely dominated the Rams' offensive line, and I think the defensive line specifically won this game for the Rams, which is huge. It's kind of weird to say they are still in the playoff hunt. It'd be kind of wild here. They're going to have to kind of run the table, but they have some winnable games coming up throughout a majority of their season here. They're sitting at their 10th overall right now, and they are just 2 games back from the 7th seed, which is held by the Denver Broncos right now at 5-5. And the Falcons are playing Denver this week, so we will try and help you guys out as best we can. But they're going to be going up against Las Vegas Raiders, who they are, well, technically 3 games back from the 7th seed overall. But they are 15th in the AFC. They're 2-7, and they are not making the playoffs. Sorry, Raiders fans. That wasn't obvious. But moving on from Devontae Adams, who ironically has gone on to maybe potentially worse team than the Raiders. But there are some bright spots, I think, that you can kind of pick off from this Raiders team looking forward. The Brock Bowers pick has been an absolute hit. He's their best receiver on the team here. Still some positive play coming from the defense in general, like with Max Crosby and whatnot, so one of the better defensive ends. Want to throw it over to you. What did you think of this Miami team tonight when they were playing, and what does the Raiders have to do to come off with an upset victory here in Week 11?
Yeah, I mean, they still don't look fully right, but I think if you factor in Tua missing a majority of the season so far, like they are kind of just now getting into like their midseason form, which will be interesting because in the past we've seen this Miami Dolphins team the past couple of years come out to a really hot start and then kind of simmer down in like come the midway point. Well, we're at the midway point. I really am curious to see if this Dolphins offense can kind of continue to build on the progress that they've made since Tua has been back, or will they kind of continue to just be mediocre? And so I didn't really know what to make of it because I thought they had some good moments. I thought they had some bad moments. And I also felt like the Rams, like the first play that jumps to mind was that 3rd and 19 play where Tua gets out of the pocket and then throws the 25-yard pass to Raheem Mostert. And it's like, that's really just a bust by the Rams. Like that is a good play by the Dolphins, but it's also just a really bad play by the Rams. And so Jonnu Smith had a nice play to get down to the 1-yard line that they ran in for a touchdown. And it was a really good defensive performance by the Dolphins also on Monday Night Football, holding them to 5 field goals. So got to give credit where credit's due there. And kind of with the Raiders, it's just it never kind of came together for them this season. The Devontae Adams situation, if you watch the show Receivers, you could kind of tell he was already unhappy there last year. And so that situation just kind of boiled over midway through the first part of this season. And he finally left. This Brock Bowers has been a really great offensive or passing target for them. And Jacoby Myers has been good in situations when he's been healthy. But with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew back there throwing the ball, just hasn't been elite enough on that side of the ball to really stay in some of these games. And I think defensively, they're still decent. Max Crosby's having a good year. And I think Antonio Pierce is doing a decent job with that defense. It's just not, they don't have enough players and enough like true talent, I think, to really be competitive against a lot of these teams right now.
Yeah, no, defensively, you're right. They're 15th overall in total yards allowed, 12th in passing yards, and 22nd rushing yards allowed. I think a lot of that, though, in that statistic overall is they're behind a lot in a lot of these games.
Yeah.
And then teams also know too that offensively they haven't been able to really move the ball that well, just because the Raiders are 29th in total yards allowed, 18th in passing yards. Sorry, this often 29th in total yards, 18th in passing yards, and 32nd in rushing yards. And the rushing yards is pretty impressive too because they're behind the Dallas Cowboys, who also cannot run the ball at all.
What's the yardage?
So the Raiders are averaging 77 rushing yards per game,
Oh
and
my
I think
gosh.
there is a major outlier in one that one game. So they have a 152-yard rushing game against the Cleveland Browns, and they've broken 100 twice. Other than that, 152-yard rushing game. Pretty impressive, actually. I would say
Okay.
for NFL standards to not even average or to barely average a quarter of the field. And
Oh
so
my gosh, that's really bad.
it's not the best. It's not the best performance, I think. Especially too, they're just 2 years removed from Josh Jacobs running like 1,700 rushing yards. And
Yeah,
I
I
know
know.
Luminor moved on, but I would need to go back and double check their roster from or their offensive line roster from 2 years ago. But I don't believe it's changed that much. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Absolutely, please. I'm open to being wrong on that, but I don't think it's changed. The offensive line's changed too much. So that's what's very interesting about kind of this downfall of the Raiders team. But think about it too with this Raiders team, what's been going on the past couple of years, from Henry Ruggs to John Gruden to then, just a lot of other things. Then with Derek Carr being traded as well, you get Devontae Adams because he once played Derek Carr, and then you move on
Josh
from Derek Carr.
Josh McDaniels being the head
Daniels
coach
is
for
not
a season
one,
and a half. Like, it's just been a really rough, like, 4 or 5 years
not even
for
4
the
or 5 years.
Raiders.
I think Henry Ruggs was
Was that 3
uh,
years ago?
it was a fall of 21. Or
Yeah,
was
and
no, I think
that was under Josh McDaniels, I thought.
no, I think it was under John Gruden.
Oh, was it under Gruden? Okay.
Yeah,
Raiders fans, you can leave a comment down below on
yeah,
the timeline of events, but the 2020s have not been a good time for the Las Vegas Raiders.
no,
Just
no.
just to put it that way. And so I do think this organization, they have some hope. Um, I think Brock Bowers is a coverage dictator from the tight end position. I think Jacoby Myers is a good complementary receiver. So I think if you can go out and you can go get like a Tet McMillan or even like a Luther Burden, I think would fit in this offense. A guy that can really be your number one wide receiver. I think that would be a really good addition. I I am uneasy on this quarterback class at the moment. Um, like, I like Cam Ward and I like Shador Sanders. I'm curious how the NFL will feel on them after this whole draft process. Those guys could be top 10 picks. Those guys could go like late first round. It'll just kind of depend. I'm very interested to see though on how the Raiders handle this offseason and handle rebuilding this franchise going forward.
Sorry, just quickly looking at this, it looks like just going back to I'm just very curious. I forgot you remember all this stuff happened, but I forgot how quickly it was. So it looked like John Gruden resigned on October 11th of 2021, and then Henry Ruggs got into the accident in November of 2021. So like it
Oh
was just
my
a month apart.
gosh.
So it was whatever the interim coach was. Um,
And then McDaniels was hired the next offseason. Halfway through last year, he was fired. They brought in Antonio Pierce.
and that was not a good year and a half at all
No, no,
for that
no.
for that team. Oh, you know what's crazy too? That Raiders team. And sorry, we're totally not talking about the game anymore. But that Raiders team still made the playoffs in 2021 because they played the Bengals in the playoffs. They still somehow
Yeah,
made
that's
the
right.
playoffs.
And then but the Bengals kicked the last second field goal to win. That was the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, if I
Yeah,
remember. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's
wild.
crazy.
Holy cow! We were talking a lot more about this 2-7 Raiders team than I initially thought going into
Yeah, I
this
know.
game.
Wow, we're talking about how much of a disaster it is.
Yeah. Well, when it
uh,
comes to this game, though, I think they're one path to victory. Going back to the game, why everybody's tuning in to this matchup here, it is going to have to be through Brock Bowers because I think this Calais Campbell defensive line is going to get after. And Jalen Phillips is on the squad as well, and so it's a good defensive line. I think they're going to give whichever quarterback, whether it's Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Desmond Ritter, who they've signed and is off the practice squad. And sorry, Aiden O'Connell actually broke his thumb, so he's not going to be playing this game. He might be coming back later this season, but probably not, especially too if they're playing poorly. Maybe try and give Ritter a shot or stick with Gardner Minshew. But Brock Bowers, I think, to me, is the only real path forward here because this Miami Dolphins defense is playing well. So they're 10th overall in yards allowed, 9th in passing, 12th in rushing. So Raiders are probably not going to be able to run the ball at all. Passing wise, Brock Bowers is a legit weapon, but it's really kind of it from there. You still have Jacoby Myers, who's going to have some time, but once again, I think quarterback play is going to play a big part in that. So with that, it's been fun going down memory lane a little bit. I'm going to go with Miami here. I think they're going to be at home. Yeah. I think also, too, they just have enough speed to really kind of stymie this Raiders team as a whole. So they just can't shoot themselves in the foot.
That's going to be my thing. And I do think if the Raiders can get after Tua and force him to make some mistakes, which is definitely possible with this offensive line and just kind of the history of this Dolphins team, I think that's definitely possible. But I am also going to go with Miami. I just think the Raiders haven't scored more than 24 points at all this year. They've only gotten to 24 once. And I think you look at the last 4 weeks. They scored 24 last week against the Bengals in a 41-24 loss. So probably a couple garbage time points in there. But so 24, 20, 15, 13, 18, 20, 22. And then it's just hasn't been a good offense performance. So I think even if the Dolphins have a similar performance to what they did on Monday Night Football, I still feel like they put up a lot more points than the Raiders do. So, and that's how you win football games. You score more points than your opponents. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the Las Vegas Raiders? Will it be the Miami Dolphins? And then we will see you guys next time.